Most of us have watched the movie Conjuring or the movie Annabelle about the doll. The haunted doll, the cursed doll. Well, there is actually a true story behind the doll Annabelle. And this is the story. The true story of the original Annabelle doll began when she terrorized her first owner in 1970. She forced Anne Lorraine Warren to take her to their occult museum for safekeeping. She sits in a glass case bearing a hand-carved inscription of the Lord's Prayer, while a pleasant smile rests upon her happy face, setting under a mop of red hair. But beneath the case is a sign that reads, "Warning, positively, do not open." To the uninformed visitors of the Warrens Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut, she looks like any other Raggedy Ann doll produced in the mid-20th century. But the original Annabelle doll is actually anything but ordinary. Since her first haunting in 1970, this evil doll has been blamed for demonic possession, many violent attacks, and at least 2 near-death experiences. In recent years, the true stories of Annabelle have even inspired several horror films. This is the true story of the real Annabelle doll. Though she doesn't share the same porcelain skin and lifelike features as the doll used in the movies, the Annabelle doll that lives in the occult museum of famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, the pair that worked on the case, is made all the more creepy by how ordinary she actually appears. Annabelle's stitched features, including her half smile and her bright orange triangular nose, bring memories of childhood toys and simpler times. If you could ask Ed and Lorraine Warren today, even though Ed died in 2006 and Lorraine died in 2019, if you could ask them today, they would tell you that the stark warnings that is scrawled across Annabelle's glass case are more than necessary. Because according to this well-known demonologist couple, this doll is responsible for 2 near-death experiences, 1 fatal accident, and a string of demonic activities that lasted 30 years. The first of these infamous hauntings can allegedly be traced back to 1970, when Annabelle was brand new. The story was told to the Warrens by 2 young women and then was retold for years after the fact by the Warrens themselves. So as the story goes, the Annabelle doll had been a gift to a young nurse named Donna. This was a gift from her mother for her 28th birthday. Donna apparently was very thrilled with the gift. She brought it back to her apartment that she shared with another young nurse named Angie. At first, the doll was an adorable accessory, sitting on a sofa in the living room and greeting visitors with her colorful eyes and face. But before long, the 2 women began to notice that Annabelle seemed to move about the room on her own free will. Donna would set her on the living room sofa before leaving for work, only to come home in the afternoon and find her in the bedroom with the door shut. Donna and Angie then started finding notes left throughout the apartment, reading, quote, unquote, "Help me." According to the women, the notes were written on parchment paper, which they did not even keep in their home. Furthermore, Angie's boyfriend, known only as Lou, was in the apartment one afternoon while Donna was out, and he heard a rustling in her room as if someone had broken in. Upon inspection, he found no sign of forced entry, but found the Annabelle doll laying face down on the ground. There is other versions of this story that say he was attacked upon waking up from a nap. The medium claimed that the spirit was just harmless, and all she wanted was to simply be loved and cared for. The two young nurses reportedly felt bad for the spirit of the little girl, and they agreed to allow her to take up a permanent residence inside the doll, eventually in an attempt to rid their home of the Annabelle doll's spirit. Donna and Angie called on a priest known as Father Hagen. Hagen contacted his superior, Father Cook, who alerted Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren said the two young girls' trouble started when they began believing that the doll deserved their sympathy. The Warrens believed that there was actually a demonic force in search of a human host within Annabelle. This was not a harmless soul of a little girl. The Warrens actually said of the case, quote, "Spirits do not possess inanimate objects like houses or toys. They possess people. An inhuman spirit can attach itself to a place or object, and this is what occurred in the Annabelle case. This spirit manipulated the doll and created the illusion of it being alive in order to get recognition. Truly, the spirit was not looking to stay attached to the doll. It was looking to possess a human host." Immediately, the Warrens noted what they believed were signs of demonic possession, including teleportation, the doll moving on its own, also materialization, the parchment paper notes, and the mark of the beast, Lou's clawed chest. The Warrens ordered an exorcism of the apartment to be performed by Father Cook. Then they took Annabelle out of the apartment to her final resting place in their occult museum in the hopes that her demonic reign would finally end. But following Annabelle's removal from Donna and Angie's apartment, the Warrens documented several other paranormal experiences involving the doll. The first was just minutes after they took possession of her. After the exorcism of the nurse's apartment, the Warrens buckled the doll into the back seat of their car, but they vowed not to take the highway in case she had some kind of accident causing power over them and their vehicle. However, even the safer back roads proved too risky for the couple to take. On their way home, Lorraine explained that the brakes either stalled or failed several times, resulting in a near disastrous crash. Lorraine claimed that as soon as Ed pulled holy water from his bag and doused the doll with it, the problem with the brakes completely disappeared. Upon arriving home, Ed and Lorraine placed the doll in Ed. There, they reported that the doll levitated and moved about the house. Even when placed in the locked office in an outer building, the Warrens claimed that she would turn up later inside the house. Finally, the Warrens decided to lock Annabelle up for good. The Warrens had a specially made glass and wood case constructed, upon which they inscribed the Lord's Prayer and St. Michael's Prayer. And for the rest of Ed's life, he would periodically say a binding prayer over the case to ensure that the sinister spirit and the doll remained good and trapped. And since being locked up, Annabelle the doll hasn't moved again, though it is alleged that her spirit has found ways to reach out to the earthly plane. Once, a priest who was visiting the Warrens Museum picked up Annabelle and discounted her demonic abilities. Ed warned the priest about mocking Annabelle's demonic power, but the young priest just laughed at him. On his way home, the priest was involved in a near-fatal crash that totaled his new car. He claimed to have seen Annabelle in his rearview mirror just before the accident. Years later, another visitor to the museum knocked on the glass of Annabelle's doll case, and he laughed at how silly people were to believe in her. On his way home, he lost control of his motorcycle and crashed straight headlong into a tree. He was killed instantly, and his girlfriend barely survived. She claimed that at the time of the accident, the couple had been laughing about the Annabelle doll. Over the years, the Warrens continued to recount these tales as proof of Annabelle the doll's horrific powers. The names of the young priest and the motorcyclist were never told. Neither Donna nor Angie, the two nurses who were Annabelle's first victims, ever came forward to tell their story in public. Neither Father Cook nor Father Hagen appeared to have mentioned their exorcisms of Annabelle ever again. Though Ed and Lorraine Warren have both now died, their legacy has been carried on by their daughter Judy and her husband Tony. Until his death in 2006, Ed considered Tony his demonology protege, and he entrusted him with continuing his work, which has included caring for his occult artifacts. These artifacts include the Annabelle doll and her protective case. Tony cautions visitors of Warren's Occult Museum about Annabelle's powers. Tony is asked many times, "Is it dangerous?" And Tony always says, "Yes, it is the most dangerous object in this museum." And Tony says for any of those that doubt Annabelle's powers, he said he will compare it to playing Russian roulette, saying, "There might just be one bullet in the gun, but would you still pull the trigger, or would you just put the gun down and not take that risk?" The real-life fears surrounding the original Annabelle doll only flared up even more in August of 2020. Reports surfaced that she had escaped from the Warrens Occult Museum, which closed down at least temporarily due to zoning issues in 2019. Though the rumors quickly spread on social media, the reports were quickly outed as inaccurate. Tony himself soon posted a video of himself alongside the real-life Annabelle doll. He said, "Annabelle's alive and well, or I shouldn't say alive. Annabelle is here in all of her infamous glory. She has never left the museum. I'd be concerned if Annabelle really did leave, because she is nothing to play with." What are your thoughts about Annabelle doll? Do you believe that it is possible the paranormal things, the curse, the possession of the child inside the doll? Do you believe there is a spirit trapped inside this doll? Or do you believe it's just another urban legend? Personally, myself, I would be more so prone to say and believe that it is probably just another urban legend. However, the doll is still in the case in Connecticut at the museum. Have you ever been to the museum? Have you seen the doll? It makes my curiosity actually want to go there. Thank you all so much for listening, and Until next time, this is Unjustified.